We'll be talking to you a little bit about the SAF, which is the Student Assistance Fund, who's eligible to apply and how to actually go about filling out your application. So to find the SAF, if you type in SAFWIT onto Google or your closest search engine, whatever you're using on a phone or computer, and just click the link that comes up, it'll bring you directly onto the section on the website where we have information on the Student Assistance Fund. Now, as you can see, if you scroll down here, it shows you what eligible expenses you can submit for the SAF and what are ineligible expenses. There's also a really good section here on FAQs. So what actually is the fund, how does it work, when you can apply, and what expenses are covered. So before you actually fill out the form, I would suggest that everyone has a little look through the FAQs and make sure that you are in financial need and you need to apply for this fund before submitting your application. Okay, so once you have decided that you're going to apply for the SAF, just click on the little tab here that says apply and this button, and it will bring you straight onto Cognito Forms, which is where you will go through the 10 different sections, as you can see here, the 10 different pages to your Student Assistance Fund application. The first page basically means you have to read through each of these statements and tick them as you agree with what is written there, okay? So in order to progress with the form, you have to agree with these, but you need to read through them yourself before confirming and then sign your name here. Now that can be a little bit tricky, but just give it your best attempt at signing your name. Click Save. And what that does is it shows you your link for your form. So if you can't complete your form all in one day and you need to come back over a few different days or maybe over a couple of weeks, this form can be sent to your email. So email me my link. You just fill out your information there and it will get sent to your email, so that if you need to pick up the form at different stages on different days, you can do that. So we're just going to click next there, and as you can see, it brings us on to page 2. On page 2, there are just a number of questions here that you answer yes or no to. And once you've completed that at the bottom, you are required to put in your WIT username, your student number, and you have to put that in before you move on to the next stage on the application. So just put your student number in and then save and click next. As we can see here, page 3 looks for just your basic information, so your first and last name, your home address and term address, so that is your college address, and some other basic information. So once you fill all of that out, click Save and then move on to the next page. Page 4 on the Student Assistance Fund application talks to you about how to upload documentation, okay? So this is your do's and don'ts when you're submitting receipts, bank statements, anything that you're submitting with your application that shows income or shows expenditure. So you have to look through this to make it as easy for the assessors to access your information as possible. So it explains about the bank statements in particular, how to download them, and if you're submitting receipts, don't submit them in a big bundle like this, because obviously you can't see what's on each individual receipt. They should be submitted nice and clearly, well lit up and not blurry if possible. Okay, so I'll just click on to the next page, which is page 5. And this is all about income and expenditure. Page 5 and 6 then refer to your funding status and also to other information relevant to you as a student. So what you need to do is on page 5, for example, you'll click yes or no whether you have a grant, the status and the type of grant, if you're a mature student or not, if there are dependents at home, so if there was anyone else living in your home with your parents or guardians, if you have children, and if you're on back to education allowance. So you would fill all those in as relevant to you individually. You'd save your application, click next and hop on to page 6. As you can see, page 6 then refers to your medical card if you have one. If you don't, your current employment status, and your background. So you would just work through this page, reading the different questions and answering them. And this one then, if you have applied for the SAF before and your highest level of education reached to date. So that's pages 5 and 6. Now we're moving on to pages 7 and then 8. So page 7 is income, page 8 is expenditure. These sections of the form are really, really important because obviously income shows the money that you have available to spend, and expenditure is showing all of the expenses that you have as a student. So to move through the form, you would go through this and see, do you receive any of these payments or incomes or any social welfare assistance? So you'd answer yes or no to those. Now, for the purpose of just showing you the form, I've answered no here. And the form generates my total monthly income, as can be seen here. Now mine is showing a 0 because I have clicked no to everything. However, if I click yes, it will bring up the options here of weekly or monthly. So if I said monthly, I would enter the amount here, and then I need to show proof of that. So for any figure that goes onto this form, whether it is income or whether it is expenditure, you need to have documentation to show that. Now, for a lot of people, your bank statements will show a lot of this. So you can choose to upload your bank statement and highlight the relevant incomes or expenditures as you include them on the form. Or if you want to take sections from letters in your emails or photographs of bills, you can do that once it's clear, once your name can be read on them, and you can upload them to the form. Okay, so you'll have worked through all of the income section. Your income obviously will have to say an amount there. If your income is 0 and you have expenditure on your application, that's not going to be able to be assessed without showing how you are surviving. So for example, if you do not have any grant or do not work or anything like that, but you receive money from parents or grandparents or something like that, you can put that in here. And it's important to put that on the form, because if you show that you have no income whatsoever but your expenses are 600 or 800 euros a month, we can't assess that form because there is no form of income. Just to add on that as well, so for your expenditure on page 8, so if you pay rent or mortgage, house insurance, property tax, books, class materials, course expenditure. So all of these you need to answer either yes or no to. If you click yes, it's going to ask, do you pay that weekly or monthly? And then you have to upload. So for your rent, it can be showing that the direct debit is going out of your bank account, or it can be a photograph of your lease agreement, for example. If it's something to do with books and class materials, if you had something like a receipt to show that you purchased a laptop for college, that would be perfect. Or what a lot of people do is purchase books online, maybe through Amazon for their course or different online shops. Once you keep the receipt for those, you can take a screenshot on your computer, or you can upload the receipts for those as well. So in order to move on with the form, I'm just going to have to click through this page and then I'll show you the next section then. Actually, on the bottom of page 8 is the really important section of uploading your bank or credit union statements. Now, what you have to do is click onto the little handy guides for your relevant bank. So if you're with AIB, Bank of Ireland, Permanent TSB or Ulster Bank, please click onto those and it will tell you exactly how to access your statements online so that you can upload the most recent months of your bank statements. What happens sometimes is a lot of the time students upload maybe only 1 month of statements or a few months of statements, but they're from the year previous. They need to be relevant to when you submit your application. So if you're submitting this in October or November, it needs to be during the summer months prior to that. Similarly, if you're submitting your form at Christmas time, you need to show some spending from when you were a student from September onwards. If I had been filling out the form as a student, as one of you, I would obviously have income showing here and expenditure showing here. As this is a demonstration, it's just showing a monthly balance of 0. Had you gone through the full application and filled out your income and filled out your expenditure, the form generates what your balance is here. So if you have a surplus, which would mean that you have spare money in your balance each month, or if you are in a deficit. So a deficit will show as a little minus symbol before the figures. Now, obviously, if you are in financial need, there should not be a lot of a surplus there. If there's a very high deficit, it does show that you are struggling. So it's just important to remember that you're putting all of your expenses in on this form, because if you don't show all of the expenses that you have for college, it may not necessarily look like you're financially struggling. We're almost finished now. So page 9 allows you to put in your personal statement. Okay, so this is where you get to write your story or reason for applying for the Student Assistance Fund. So a lot of times maybe people have had a job up to a certain point and they've suddenly become unemployed, or if someone has had very difficult circumstances in their family, if there has been maybe illness or death in their family, or if they've had to take over caring for someone, or if there have been additional costs that were unexpected with them beginning college. This is where you get to type all of that, okay? So please don't just write one little small sentence in there. Write a nice long paragraph about why you're applying for the Student Assistance Fund to paint a picture of the financial struggle that you're going through at the moment. Similarly, if you heard about the Student Assistance Fund through a different support body or through an individual in the college, please put their name here, as it helps to know where people are being referred to apply to the SAF from. So if it's from a lecturer or it's from a class rep or the Students' Union, it's just good for us to know where people are being referred from. You also have an opportunity here for additional documentation. So if there was something that you felt as an expenditure wasn't covered in the form, you can put that here as additional documentation, okay? So you have every single opportunity to put all your relevant costs into this form. So please take your time in filling the whole thing out. Now, I have to type something here for it to accept it, so I'm just going to do that and we'll have a little look at the last page. And final page, so page 10 is where you put in your bank details. So if you're successful, money will be transferred from Waterford IT to your bank account. Okay, so you put in the information relevant to your bank account here, and one final time you will sign the application. So you'll draw your name across that box as best as possible. You will save and submit the application. With the Student Assistance Fund, it is a one-off payment and the amounts that you may receive vary. This is all covered in the FAQs, the frequently asked questions at the beginning of the website. So you will be paid once off. It's not like the student grant like Susie where you're paid monthly, or like social welfare where you're paid weekly. This is a one-off financial aid for students. If you have any difficulties in actually applying for the SAF or filling out the form, or have any questions about the whole process, please email saf@wit.ie and one of our team will be able to get in touch with you and help you with any questions that you might have. We hope you found these videos helpful and we look forward to meeting you all soon. Thank you.